And just like that, it's officially over. We're going to do a postmortem of the third season of the show, which ended last Thursday, but truthfully, it had died long before it started. If this show was for the original fans, why sacrifice substance for a cash grab reinvention with characters that look like our girls but don't act like them? If this was a show for older women in Carrie's demographic, why feed them illusions of going back to old struggles, love, and drama, signaling evidently that you may get older but not necessarily wiser? The universe of Sex and the City, and by that I mean the original show, had a lot of heart. The fact that it wasn't attached to a cult-like following made it free flow and more of a rarity. That rarity was refreshing, fun to watch, and most important of all, honest. So why didn't Just Like That Season 3 fail to recapture that, even though there was more of an attempt this time? Today we're going to talk about the good, the meh, and the bad of the third season of And Just Like That, starting with
There's also nothing cool about you calling me when you know I'm in my important pitch.
Still? Sorry, I thought that'd be over by now.
They were 45 minutes late.
Lisa's story is so underrated. She's cool, and her story is the story of many women who are trying to have it all and getting exhausted in the process. And to be fair, Lisa is kind of awesome. She's a present mother, an influencer, a style icon, and as a documentarian, she's constantly working to excel and give visibility to Black women. She does everything with such style that it's admirable, but we are also given a glimpse into the life of a woman who does everything around her. And it is amazing as it is exhausting. It's such a shame that the writers didn't give her more screen time to explore these issues. Her storylines had a lot of substance, but instead of developing them, they kill her dad. Again. Lisa's dad died twice, and the show didn't even realize it. I understand this can happen in older shows with many seasons and episodes, but in a show with only 3 seasons and 35 episodes in total, that's just careless. Lisa is tempted to have an affair with her editor, and her husband does nothing but push her towards it. Lisa's husband is so annoying, and throughout the whole season, she was frustrated with how needy and uncooperative he was with her project, especially since she was supportive of him. In the last episode, we see her visibly worn out by her marriage, and is considering if it's even worth it, while asking when is it her time to be supported and held. For someone like Lisa, who literally does everything, having this comfort and support is the fuel that keeps her going, and she's aware she's not getting that in return. And out of nowhere, she decides, you know what, it is worth it. But it comes across more as a sudden change of heart than a deep reflection. By the end, without much consideration, she comes back home and sort of renews her vows to him, telling him she will always be there for him. But this doesn't solve anything, because her question still stands. When is it going to be time for her to receive this support? And I like Lisa's story because in spite of the lack of development and the rushed ending, it seems realistic that women like her do usually overextend themselves to keep everyone warm at their own expense. So the temptation of having an affair with someone that kinda gets you doesn't seem out of character.
Then I'm out. You and I? Not a match. I would rather spend the rest of my life alone than wearing fake pearls and pretending to be someone I'm not.
In a sea of incongruency and disappointing stories, Seema has been the most consistently interesting. From the very beginning, Seema has shined as one of the most noticeable changes in And Just Like That, and in a good way. Although she was created as a sort of replacement for Samantha, she has managed to evolve into her own persona. She's confident and moves around the world with a sense of self-esteem and sensuality. But unlike Sam, she's more poised and collected. And although she dates, she looks for commitment, and she does eventually want to be in a serious relationship. Basically, her plot revolves around looking for love and dating at an age where most people have gone through a first or even a second marriage. It makes her an oddity in her age group, but she never lets anyone see her sweat about it. The Seema carousel of dating men is so relatable and similar to the tone of the first show. You can see how some of the writing tries to emulate Sex and the City until they come out with lines like SpongeBob Square Partner and it suddenly turns into Riverdale. Seema loses her job during this season, and we start to see a decline from her powerful appearance as she takes public transportation and goes to places far below what she's accustomed to. And to be fair, it feels like another power play to make Carrie look above the other women. It was sad to see her go through this. I know Carrie did something similar in Sex and the City, but even then it was portrayed with more dignity than what they made Seema endure. Especially with that bit about her rock deodorant making her smell at an important meeting. I don't know, it wasn't funny, it was just kinda sad. Seema's relationship with the gardener guy was actually really cute. These two had great on-screen chemistry. And even though they didn't have many episodes together, the development of their relationship was gradual and well-paced. Until we find out that they have very different views on marriage. And this actually brings Seema into an interesting dichotomy that should have had more time to be explored. Did she want to get married because she truly wanted it, or because it was expected of her? I was pleasantly surprised when those words came out of her mouth, because a lot of people don't even consider this before making a lifetime commitment, especially as someone with an Indian background like her. Too bad that it was in the very last episode that she started to question it, but at least she did it.
For everybody in the audience who's got a birthday today, happy birthday to you!
Smile! Over here.
Harry and Charlotte's relationship is sweet and constantly evolving, even after the issues they face in life. They're constantly supportive and kind to each other. Unfortunately, the plot doesn't give Harry much to do, despite him being arguably the best man in the whole franchise, which is sadly on brand with the original show and the movies. The screen time he does get this season is essentially focused on him peeing his pants, talking about his balls, and getting cancer, which actually made for really cute moments between them as a couple, and for Charlotte as she deals with the fear of maybe losing her partner. Lily blurting out at the table that she has a poly boyfriend was like in your face. Having sexuality discussed like this at the table felt unnecessary and a little bit more for the public than for the people in the table. I think a better way this could have been done was, I don't know, maybe Lily bringing the topic to Charlotte, who could then share it with her friends. That way they could all talk about it and give their insights. That's the motto of Sex and the City, and it would have raised a discussion about this with all the women there, which would have been more on brand with the original show. Charlotte having a cute moment with Rock dressed as a girl was so sweet. In the first season, we learned that Rock was not sure about her gender identity, and although I appreciate Charlotte for accepting her kid's exploration, it definitely needed more development. I'm glad we're at least seeing a glimpse of it. Too bad the show is cancelled and we won't get to see more, because Charlotte was mourning the girl she once had but no longer refers to as such. And that's quite a real feeling for parents who had gender expectations about their children. Charlotte grieving the daughter she didn't have was so beautiful. Seeing Rock in a dress made her nostalgic for a time when she had two little girls. Although I admire the composure and grace with which she handled Rock's transition, I love that there is at least a moment where this plot reflects some conflict in Charlotte, who's the embodiment of femininity in the group. It's such a shame we didn't get more scenes between them, particularly because this would have been a great plot to see in season 1, and we could have spent more time developing Charlotte and Rock's relationship instead of giving so much time to Seema and her Rock. And in this case, Rock is definitely the better kid. She grew into someone who actually supports Charlotte, and I'm here for it. Someone had to put Lily in her place, and I'm glad it was Rock.
I can't.
Get out of the fucking bed, Ariel.
Overall, Charlotte's development and story remain my favorite in the whole show. Since the show is already over, I can say she was easily the best part of it, in spite of the weird, crazy ways she emoted in some scenes. And I love that someone even pointed out her crazy Charlotte eyes, because that has been a constant from the start.
So let's do gifts! Girls just want to open gifts!
Season 3 tried to recapture the energy of Sex and the City, and it almost did, but not quite. The one-liners felt stale and super corny, there are humorous moments that just don't land, and it feels plain even when they try. There's no build-up, no emotion, and no punchline. The pacing is strange, and for some reason we don't even get enough time to process the joke. Maybe so we don't acknowledge how unfunny it was. Although season 3 tries to recall the quick puns and fun moments of the original show, the flow just isn't the same. It's like there's no build-up. For example, the way the original show presented the first and second Carrie and Nathan breakup was quick but packed a punch. You could feel it all the way through. This time, when Carrie and Nathan broke up, it feels less emotional. Not only because it had happened twice before, but also because of the way it was framed. It didn't feel sad, it just felt like routine for some reason. Which is odd because Sex and the City did it in 25-minute episodes, while in Just Like That had 45 minutes to develop and build the tension. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this in my previous videos about season 1 and season 2, but just like muted Carrie is a big issue for me, so is the soundtrack. The jazzy, sort of modern style the original show had gave it a sort of ambience that was an integral part of it. The new soundtrack sounds so corporate training cards that you sometimes forget that you're watching something out of the Sex and the City universe. So it only made it more unnerving when they dared to use the Sex and the City ending theme to end the last episode of And Just Like That. It was a cheap nostalgia call to a show that doesn't resemble at all the one we are watching now.
It must have been so much easier being single back then. My phone is who I'm in a relationship with. I'm so done. I want Oh my god.
The perspective Lisette brings to the show about dating is so needed and could have led to a discussion about how standards and etiquette have evolved, or devolved in this case, over the years. But no, it's abruptly cut to nothing. Honestly, having more moments with Lisette could have created a contrast that brought all the women together in the confusing and often disappointing landscape of dating. Instead, the show separates them by generations and gives little insight into either. Lisette destroying Carrie's apartment was weird, but to be honest, Carrie let that apartment go for the next person to adapt it the way they wanted. Yes, that apartment is the legacy of the show, but let's face it, what Lisette did to Carrie's apartment pales in comparison to what And Just Like That did to Sex and the City. If anything, it's a perfect representation of that. A visual metaphor for turning an iconic and timeless idea into something completely unrecognizable and uncomfortable to live in. I think a lot of people won't agree with me on this, but I'm not so bothered by the fashion choices this season. I do think some are hit or miss, but in spite of a few questionable looks and very evident preferences, I see some visually interesting options worn by all of them. It feels like there is a healthy compromise between staying loyal to the original styles and incorporating new additions that both fit their age and modern fashion concepts. I like that they're putting all these women in outfits that don't cover them up, but on the contrary, make them look playful and fun without compromising their character. And I wish their writing would have done the same.
Hi, Mom, or should I say hi, meme?
Okay.
Miranda becoming a meme was kinda dumb. Not only that, but do showrunners and the network have not access to social media? And this isn't only an And Just Like That problem. Every show with a poor understanding of how internet lingo works end up overusing it and doing it wrong. Memes are not always created over small diction problems. They usually happen because of more remarkable things, outlandish behavior, and shocking moments. And if anything, what happened to Miranda would have been a quick 2-second haha and not something that goes fully viral. Although the storyline is supposed to be about 5 friends, it's clear how unbalanced the storytelling is. Lisa and Seema have very relatable plotlines that modern women can connect with. Charlotte, dealing with Harry's health concerns, once again has the only consistent storyline in the whole show. And Miranda is trying to date as a newly out lesbian. On paper, they all sound like interesting stories, but the amount of time the show devotes to Carrie and Nathan's storyline makes it obvious where the priorities are. Yes, she was the protagonist of Sex and the City, but when the original show focused on her friends, it still gave them the respect and time they deserved to develop properly. Here, however, it feels like all of Carrie's friends' stories are treated as secondary, rushed, undercooked, and lacking the same respect and attention as hers. The show is basically telling us that the only story that matters is hers, because it's the only one conveyed with any real care or grace. The closest feeling of friendship and support that Sex and the City had is now reflected in the relationship between Lisa and Charlotte. They're genuinely caring and supportive towards each other, and the two actresses have the best chemistry out of the group. Seema and Carrie also share something similar, but most of their interactions revolve around Carrie's issues. And the little humor the show has rarely lands on Carrie, which is both expected and very telling. Instead, she gets the fashionable moments, and to be fair, the best outfits. Most of Carrie's scenes are serving looks, but we'll get into that later.
Way to get famous.
Please don't say I'm famous. Please don't say that.
Miranda's alcoholism should have been explored more in depth. It's like even delicate topics weren't treated with the humanity they deserved. In my opinion, it actually makes sense that Miranda will develop these kind of addictions later in life. She pressured herself too much when she was younger, not only in her professional life, but also in her personal one. Not enough to fully switch her sexual orientation, but still. In her 30s and 40s, she walked into a life she wasn't fully content with, and that would inevitably lead her to be as unhappy as she ended up being. But making Miranda an apartment hopper when she was the most successful one just so Steve could keep living in the house she bought would never be the Miranda we knew. Also, why is Miranda apartment hopping? She was the most successful one in Sex and the City and the first one to have an apartment. I know she cheated, but she shouldn't have to be the one to move out. Also, why is Miranda so submissive and cringy? Yes, in the original show, she sometimes lacked the sensitivity to make certain comments, but this Miranda switches between not reading the room and being overly self-aware and insecure. And while Miranda has always been insecure, she was also confrontational and outspoken. She should have gone back to her aggressive self. Why is she so meek now? There are so many situations that a 30-year-old Miranda would have solved quickly by embodying that confrontational attitude. Like the awful way Brady treats her, for example, or a few things she could have said to Carrie, instead of becoming the soft-spoken, bootlicking cheerleader she turned into. Joey and Miranda's relationship is fine, but that's the thing. It's a little dry and not giving as much development as the one she had with Che. Still, it was kinda sweet because they gradually revealed things about each other and became more open about their fears and hopes for their relationship and their personal lives. And it's nice to finally see Miranda being treated as an equal in a relationship, instead of having her heart trampled by the awful dynamics with Che or the unequal, frustrating relationship she had with Steve.
I'm sad. I really thought we were going to make it this time.
And in a shocking surprise to absolutely no one, Carrie and Aidan broke up. Again. In my Aidan video, I mentioned the many reasons why they never work, no matter how many times they try. They never acknowledge the pain they've caused to each other, and as much as time has passed, there haven't been proper amends to justify them getting back together. This was doomed to happen the moment Carrie sent that email. They never talked things through, they never agreed on anything, and the silences between them filled the room, leaving no space to actually solve anything. And their breakup was short and unsatisfying. What's most upsetting is that in spite of how Aidan's jealousy eroded the relationship, he was completely justified in feeling insecure. After all, Carrie cheated on Aidan with Big, then married Big after refusing to marry Aidan, and later reject him in Abu Dhabi. Aidan was always the fallback choice to Mr. Big, so of course, the moment another man came into the picture, his position as Carrie's partner was on shaky ground. And that's unfair because it wasn't Carrie who needed to move on from Aidan. It was Aidan who needed to move on from Carrie. Unfortunately, if history is any indication, whenever one of Carrie's first choices dies or leaves her, she'll just go back to Aidan again. Maybe she will take Aidan back in another 25 years, but still only as a backup, until another 80 or 90-year-old magnate or successful writer enters her life. What I'm trying to say is, it's cruel that she called him, took him back, and then ditched him. Yes, She was putting in some effort, and yes, Aiden's conditions were ridiculous. But I still feel bad for him. Not only does he live with a broken heart over Carrie all over again, but he's also left to deal with his family issues on top of it. Aiden becoming obsessive about Duncan is just an extension of the unhappiness that defined the relationship from the beginning. He never trusted Carrie, and I don't blame him, but they desperately needed a real moment together before this big blow up. It's a shame how the writers use Aiden the same way Carrie does. And as bad as it sounds, I can't even say it's inconsistent. In fact, it's the opposite. Aiden always comes back when there's nothing left to extract from Big, nor his presence, nor even his memory. And even Carrie admitted this in the last episode. Aiden has always been a backup in her mind, and he just keeps coming back to her.
Autumn was here, and as the leaves turned gold and the air turned crisp, the woman returned to herself.
Having Carrie involved in the conflicts of her boyfriend already existing family was really refreshing to watch in a show where it often feels like nothing really happens. It was as realistic as it was uncomfortable. These sort of issues tend to come up with a partner's family, and it's one of the many pitfalls a relationship has to go through to survive. And well, this one didn't survive. But I can't stop thinking about how much more time we got to see Carrie's story compared to her friends' stories. We get to know Aiden's family issues and plenty of other details. And yes, these help the plotline, but they also give us an unbalanced weight to the storytelling. And that's the thing. The show is far more interested in what happens to Carrie, while the other plotlines feel relegated to second-tier status. For example, right after a really uncomfortable scene where Carrie is dragged into family issues she feels foreign to, we got to Miranda saying, "You don't like me because I'm a meme." The contrast is huge, and not in a good way. Even though we spend more time watching Carrie, we don't actually see her, or at least not in a deep, vulnerable way. Even her decision to change her writing style felt impersonal, giving a sense of otherness and emotional distance. In Sex and the City, when Carrie was writing in the first person, it wasn't just about herself. It was about the questions and experiences many women shared. Her columns and reflections were so intertwined with the serious plot that they became the glue holding everything together. But now, Carrie's inner monologue about this fake woman who's neither here or there actually works against her own development. Back then, the women Carrie's voice referred to were the characters the audience knew almost personally, and we saw them through that lens. Now, the woman Carrie is referring to is actually herself, but even that feels impersonal because it creates distance between Carrie, the audience, and these nameless characters from her novel. Which brings me to Duncan. I'm baffled as to why he's so interested in such a bland story. His fascination feels like a not so thinly veiled commentary on ending the story of Carrie Bradshaw, but it doesn't come across as nostalgic. Instead, it feels manipulative and strange. Speaking of Duncan, this relationship was short-lived and honestly, it could have been more interesting. Like a lot of things in Just Like That, it lacked depth and chemistry. So maybe it is for the best that the plotline didn't make them end up together. Carrie is so defensive that it's frustrating. This is the only emotion she dares to show. I'd say it's because she knows she shouldn't be waiting for Aiden. Deep down, she knows it was never going to work, but there's barely any acknowledgement of this. Everyone ends up on the receiving end of her preemptive defensiveness. I'm glad Seema called her out because Carrie was prickly with everyone. Anthony, Miranda, and even Seema. She knew she was making a mistake with Aiden, but refused to face it, so she needed some tough love in return. What makes it even worse is how everyone else treats Carrie. For some reason now, everybody loves her. She gets special treatment from every character, and that sums up and Just Like That perfectly. Everyone knows Carrie, everyone likes Carrie, and everyone speaks well of Carrie. Or else, you will pay.
I'm sorry. Please don't cut me out. It took me so long to get in.
One big problem that I have with Just Like That, not just this season, but its entire conception, is how every character around Carrie exists to shield her from public criticism. And it feels more like a preventative protection, as if someone in the writer's room couldn't stand the hate Carrie got in the original show. Was Carrie obsessive and overgiving towards Big? It's fine, because now Miranda is way worse with Che. Is Carrie stuck in the past refusing to grow up? Oh, don't worry. It's not so bad because Aiden is even more stuck than she is. And when the other women aren't being used as shields to deflect criticism from Carrie, they're used as bottom-of-the-barrel comedy punchbags. Especially Charlotte, who's the only character that has remained consistent and loyal to her essence. Why, after the Sex and the City movies, do the writers seem to have a kink for humiliating Charlotte? She pooped herself in Mexico in the first movie, she got period stains in the first season of And Just Like That, and she fell very publicly at an exposition that literally involved man juice and public embarrassment. It feels like she's being punished for being the only character consistent with her origins, and the only one who has shown genuine progressive growth from where she started. That's exactly why people love her, especially in a show that is already so hard to love. Is there some kind of humiliation ritual on the And Just Like That set? Because a lot of what Charlotte and the others go through resembles the kind of graphic, gross humor Kim Cattrall was often stuck with back in the day.
I wanted to be super fresh for the party.
Well, you are. You look like beef carpaccio. Fail down, I think.
And it's not funny in a way that gives dignity to the characters. It's just mean. Look at Miranda cleaning her overflowing toilet in the last episode, for example. This show is mean to everyone but Carrie. Look at what they do to Miranda, to Charlotte, Seema, and Aiden. For some reason, Liz escapes this treatment, but for everyone else, there's always a joke or a storyline that humiliates them. Meanwhile, the little humor the show has almost never lands on Carrie, which is telling. She gets the fashionable moments, and to be fair, the best outfits. But it's very strange that she's the only one who hasn't been put in a difficult or embarrassing situation. Her portrayal is almost always dignified and classy, especially compared to what the other women go through. It honestly makes me think there's some kind of power play happening behind scenes, and it bleeds through on screen.
However many pies she wants, she gets. Anything else, Carrie?
Seema's body odor jokes and Charlotte falling into a bed of man juice are prime examples of this. Those moments don't fit the tone of the series. They feel more like a crass humor of the movies, which I was never fond of, to be honest. The show carries this air that everyone owes something to Carrie, even though she's quote-unquote too benevolent to notice. Miranda staying at Carrie's apartment or even Anthony constantly revolving around Carrie are a good example of this strange dynamic. Why is she so pissy about food when she could literally DoorDash every day of her life and still have big money left? It's obvious who holds the reins in the show. Instead of following the lives of 4 complex women, we're watching the Carrie show. Even Aiden breaking Carrie's window carries the same energy. In Sex and the City, there were genuine confrontations among these women, but here, they always end up agreeing with Carrie. And honestly, we should have seen this coming. Just look at the evolution of the promo posters. In Sex and the City, all the women were given protagonism, with Carrie only slightly more in focus as the narrator. In And Just Like That, the poster looks like Carrie's Jesus at the Last Supper and the others are her apostles. The imbalance couldn't be more obvious. And that's the real tragedy. A show like this is needed. It depicts mature women living fabulous, colorful lives, full of opportunities and growth. It challenges the idea that women must be in a certain place at a certain age. And sometimes, And Just Like That does manage to show us that. The fun, the friendships, the struggles in love and work, but it's buried under the very obvious motives that brought this revival to life in the first place. Why did it take them so long to return these women to the humanity that makes us hooked on their stories in the first place? The reason people loved the show wasn't just the fashion or the aspirational story of successful women. It was the way we could see ourselves in them no matter our own level of success. We didn't just aspire to wear Carrie's Manolos. We aspire to have the love and support of a chosen family, because even incredibly successful women can't avoid grief, job loss, health scares, relationship struggles, and identity crisis. Watching these women navigate those experiences made us feel seen and comforted. And Just Like That, Season 3 tried to recapture some of that, and honestly, is by far the best season because it felt more dynamic, more interesting, and the women were slightly closer to each other. But it was too little too late to save a show that started on the wrong foot.
The woman wondered what she had gotten herself into.
There was a good show hidden in season 3 that unfortunately didn't have enough time to breathe, let alone come to the surface. The tone was more engaging and there were interesting storylines that weren't given enough time or development because we had to spend so much time of it on Carrie and Nathan. For example, Lisa's almost affair would have been morally questionable but also understandable considering how bitchy and whiny her husband was. Seema's exploration of why she wanted to be married could have been so much more interesting and would have given her depth if we hadn't been stuck with the not so funny plots about her doing her lashes in a low-scale salon. Miranda and Joy's relationship developed gradually, but it was earnest and kind of cute. It would have been nice to see Miranda finally in a relationship where she actually felt supported and valued by her partner. And the one that bothered me the most is Charlotte and Rock. That moment genuinely made me weep. But we only got 2 or 3 scenes of something that could have been a more realistic and heartwarming depiction of what it's like to have a queer loved one who's genuinely accepted by their family. And some of the things I did like about Carrie happened in the last episode. During the fashion show, she admitted that she did have some insight after all her years of dating and marriage. She finally said to Seema and to the audience that she just wanted to be picked. Even though the realization came late, it showed that Carrie was aware of her dating patterns, and that acknowledgement gave her a sense of growth and humanity. And although we know this wasn't the ending, since the show was unceremoniously cancelled, I'm glad they ended with her being alone and learning how to be comfortable with. Writing the epilogue of the book and enjoying her own space was a realization that took real courage. And in spite of not having a partner, the hopeless romantic in her, the one who wanted nothing but undying love, finally learned that she has other wonderful things to enjoy. Her career, her friends, her blooming social life, and all the possibilities still ahead of her. Even Just Like That didn't give us much, at least it gave us this, the message that you're never completely alone if you enjoy and cherish your own company.
The woman realized she was not alone. She was on her own.
So that's it. This was my review of And Just Like That. Having already done an extensive list of video essays on the Sex and the City franchise, I'm going to take a small break from Carrie and her friends. But I'd love to hear your opinions or suggestions for future videos you would like to see, so please leave them in the comment section. And once again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye bye!